Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. I felt his eyes before I saw them lingering, uncertain, too long for comfort. Or was it curiosity? The hallway was quiet. The afternoon sun spilled golden light through the bedroom blinds, soft and warm against bare skin. I had just laid down, nothing beneath the sheets, craving the silence of the empty house. But then, the door creaked. He stood there, my stepson, hesitating for a second before walking in like it was the most natural thing in the world. He didn't look away. Neither did I. A beat too long passed. That silence said everything and nothing all at once. I expected him to turn back, to say something, ask where his dad was, maybe. Instead, he walked over and sat on the edge of the bed. Close. Too close. His scent hit me first, clean, sharp, with something warm underneath. His shoulder brushed mine. The air grew still, thick. I could feel my breath shallow. My skin prickled beneath the sheet. I glanced over, and he smiled, not the usual polite grin. This one held something else. A hint of heat. A question. An invitation? I didn't move. Couldn't. The room was charged now, like we were both waiting for something to happen, or trying to convince ourselves it wasn't already happening. The soft hum of the ceiling fan filled the space between us, but not enough to erase the tension. Our knees almost touched. The sheet clung to my legs, the only barrier left. And his gaze lowered, just slightly, before flicking back up, quickly, guiltily. But I saw it. That moment. That spark. Neither of us said a word. And yet, everything was being said. The quiet between them felt heavier now, like every breath carried meaning. She looked away, pretending to adjust the sheet, but her heart beat faster. He leaned back on his hands, eyes tracing the soft patterns of sunlight on her shoulder. "Didn't mean to walk in," he said, voice low. She smiled faintly. "You could have knocked." "I did. You didn't hear." That small exchange broke the tension just enough for them to breathe, but not enough to forget the closeness. He reached for the glass of water on the nightstand, his fingers brushing hers by accident. The contact sent a shiver through both of them. She pulled her hand back too quickly. "It's fine," she said, though her tone was softer than intended. He watched her, curious, conflicted. "You look different today," he murmured. "How so?" He hesitated, searching for words. "Just peaceful. Like you've finally let yourself relax." Her gaze softened. "Maybe I have." The air between them shifted again. Every word, every glance carried something unspoken. She caught herself studying the way his jaw tightened when he smiled, how his voice lingered at the edge of warmth. He stood, pacing a step toward the window. "I should probably stay," she said, without thinking. He turned, surprised. She smiled to hide her slip. "Just for a minute." "It's nice having someone to talk to." He sat back down, closer this time. Their knees touched. Neither moved. Inside, she told herself it was harmless, a moment of comfort, nothing more. But her pulse betrayed her. He felt it too, the pull that neither of them wanted to name. His hand rested near hers, fingers close enough to feel her warmth. She looked up. Their eyes met again, the same silent question from before hanging between them. For a long second, no one spoke. Then, without a word, he reached forward, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered a moment too long. She closed her eyes, just breathing, fighting the feeling, yet giving in to its gravity. When she opened them, he was still there, watching her with quiet intensity. Nothing more happened. But everything had changed. She hadn't meant for it to go this far. A quiet afternoon, a shared glance, that's all it was supposed to be. But now, the space between them felt charged, fragile, like one word could shatter everything. He sat close again, too close. Her heart thudded in her chest as she shifted, but didn't pull away. She told herself it was nothing. Just a conversation. Just proximity. "You're quiet," he said, voice low, eyes locked on hers. I'm thinking, she replied, unable to look away. About what? She hesitated. About how easy it is to forget what's right when something feels so real. His jaw tensed. It does feel real. That stopped her. The way he said it, soft, honest, cut right through her defenses. She looked down, pretending to adjust the sheet, but he reached out and lightly touched her wrist. It was gentle, like he wasn't sure if he should. But he didn't pull back. Their eyes met again. This isn't okay, she whispered. No, he agreed, but didn't move. But it doesn't feel wrong either. She hated that she understood. That she wanted to stay in this moment just a little longer. There was something in his eyes that wasn't just desire, it was care. It made it harder to pretend. He leaned in slightly, just enough for her to feel the warmth of his breath. His hand brushed hers again, fingers grazing slowly like he was memorizing the shape of her. She closed her eyes. We can't do this. I know, he said. But neither of them moved. The silence stretched between them, heavy with tension. 1,000 thoughts battled in her mind, her role, his trust, everything they stood to lose. But all she could focus on was how close he was, how right it felt even though it wasn't supposed to. His hand found hers again, this time, more deliberate. He didn't speak. Neither did she. It was all in the air between them, loud and undeniable. Then came the sound, a door shutting somewhere in the house. They both froze. She pulled her hand away, breath caught in her throat. He stood, stepping back, eyes wide but not regretful. She turned toward the door, heart racing. The line hadn't been crossed, but they were standing right on the edge. The door had shut, but it wasn't theirs. Silence returned, stretching thin and fragile between them. He was still standing, his breath shallow, his eyes searching hers. She hadn't moved. Neither of them spoke. Every second ticked like thunder in her ears. False alarm, he said, a nervous chuckle slipping out. She exhaled slowly, her hand pressed over her chest like she could quiet her own heartbeat. I thought it was your dad. Me too. He looked down, smiled awkwardly. That would have been bad. Very, she said, though her lips curled in a quiet smile. The moment should have broken, but instead it deepened. He stepped forward, not sitting this time, but kneeling beside the bed. His hand brushed against the edge of the sheet, so close to hers again. We keep doing this, she whispered. I know. His voice was barely above a breath. But we don't stop. I don't want to. She looked away, her breath catching again. The room felt too small, too warm. She felt the heat rising to her skin, not from shame, but from want. A want she couldn't name. Or maybe didn't want to. He leaned in slowly, testing the space. Her hand trembled slightly. She should have pulled back. Instead, she let her fingers graze his, intentionally this time. Why does it feel like I've been waiting for this? He asked, voice shaking. Because maybe you have, she said, barely audible. A silence settled again, heavier now. Her chest rose and fell in shallow rhythm. His fingers climbed higher along her wrist, delicate and slow, like every touch was a question. Her eyes followed his movement, then drifted to his face, so close now she could see the flecks of gold in his eyes. He moved closer, their faces just inches apart. Her hand rose, brushing his jaw, a soft touch that lingered. They stared at each other, breath mingling, lips nearly touching. Time froze. Everything in her screamed to pull away, every rule, every line. But her body didn't move. Neither did his. Then, the sound of his name, faint from outside. A voice calling. They both paused, lips barely apart. He rested his forehead against hers, exhaling shakily. If you say stop, I will. She closed her eyes. I don't want to. But she didn't say more. They stayed like that, close, breathless, on the edge. Just before everything changed. The air was still thick from what almost happened. They hadn't crossed the line, but they both knew how close it was. Every breath between them carried the weight of everything unspoken. Then came the sound of footsteps in the hallway. They jumped apart as the door creaked open. Her husband's sister, Melissa, stood there holding a forgotten purse. Her eyes darted from one face to the other, reading too much in a single glance. "Everything okay?" she asked, voice careful. "Yeah," the woman replied quickly, forcing a smile. "Just talking." Melissa's gaze lingered. "Right. Talking." She turned, left quietly, but her expression said she'd seen more than she should have. The silence that followed was unbearable. He finally spoke, voice low. "She knows." "She suspects," she corrected, though her heart pounded. "There's a difference. Not enough of one." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. "What are we doing?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I just know I can't stop thinking about it. About you." Her voice cracked slightly, and that broke something in him. He turned toward her, eyes fierce but soft, full of everything he couldn't say. "You shouldn't," he said. "It's wrong." "But you do too," she whispered. He froze. The truth was there between them, raw and heavy. The sound of their breathing filled the room again, quick, uneven, real. She took a step closer. He didn't move back this time. "You don't have to say it," she said. "I already know." The storm outside began to rumble, thunder rolling low like the pulse of the moment itself. Lightning flashed through the window, catching their faces in brief, electric light. He swallowed hard. "If anyone finds out, they won't," she interrupted. "They can't." He hesitated, caught between fear and longing. "It doesn't change what it is." "No," she said softly. "But it changes everything for me." A long pause. The wind rattled the window pane. The storm was building, just like them, wild, unstoppable. "I don't want to hurt anyone," he said. "Then don't," she replied. "Just don't lie to yourself anymore." Her hand reached for his again, trembling. He looked at it, then at her, torn apart by something he couldn't name. The warmth of her fingers met his, and the world outside seemed to disappear. Another flash of lightning. Closer now. He could feel her breath, her heartbeat, fast, frantic, alive. "I can't keep pretending," he said. "Then don't." That was all it took. The last bit of distance between them vanished. The tension that had been building for so long finally broke, and with it, every wall they had built to keep it away. Outside, rain began to fall. Inside, everything they'd been holding back finally let go. The storm outside had grown louder, but the world inside had gone quiet. Time felt suspended. Rain tapped softly against the windows as they stood still, hearts pounding, breaths uneven. He looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time, yet he'd never felt more familiar. She felt the heat of his hand still wrapped around hers, not trembling now, but steady. Intentional. "You sure?" he asked, voice barely audible. She didn't answer with words. She stepped closer, letting her forehead rest gently against his, closing her eyes. That was her yes. He cupped her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks. The kiss, when it came, wasn't rushed or reckless. It was slow, deep, and filled with everything they'd tried to hide. It was all there: tension, need, care. The moment felt like gravity had finally done its job, pulling them together after too long resisting the pull. Her fingers slid into his hair. His arms circled her waist, holding her like he'd never let go. The kiss deepened, breaths quickened, bodies pressed close. Every barrier, every hesitation dissolved like mist in the rain. But just as the moment reached its peak, she pulled back slightly, eyes wide with something more than passion, fear. "What happens now?" she whispered. He didn't have an answer. They stood there, wrapped in each other, but suddenly aware of the storm they had started. Then came the twist. A vibration. Her phone lit up on the nightstand. One name: Melissa. He saw it too. The breath caught in his chest. She stepped back, panic rising. She knows. She's not just guessing. He reached for her hand. "So, what do we do?" Her eyes filled not just with fear, but something deeper. This wasn't just about secrecy anymore. It was about choices. "I don't know," she said, voice shaking. But I can't go back to pretending. Can you? He shook his head slowly. No, outside. Thunder cracked again, echoing the moment. They stood at a crossroads, desire no longer the only thing at stake. Love had crept in quietly, hidden in stolen glances and long silences, and now it was demanding to be seen. No longer just a mistake waiting to happen. Now it was a decision waiting to be made. The rain had stopped. The room was still, wrapped in soft evening light filtering through the curtains. What had just happened between them wasn't loud or reckless. It was real, quiet, breathless, undeniable. They lay side by side, not touching now, but close enough to feel the warmth of each other's skin. No words were spoken for a while. There was no need. Silence had become a language between them, full of meaning, full of memory. She turned her head slightly, meeting his gaze. His expression was softer than before, less intense, more vulnerable. And in her eyes, something had changed too. No more pretending, no more fear. Just presence. Just truth. I didn't expect to feel this way, she whispered. He nodded. Me neither. Their hands found each other again, fingers locking slowly. It wasn't a grasp of desperation, but of comfort. Of something that might last. I don't regret it, he said, voice low but firm. Do you? She paused, then shook her head. No. I regret waiting so long. He smiled, pulling her hand gently to his lips, kissing her knuckles with a tenderness that almost undid her all over again. We can't undo it, she said, her voice more reflective than fearful. Good, he replied. Because I don't want to. For the first time, everything felt clear. The pull between them hadn't been a mistake. It had been a truth they tried to bury, and now that it had surfaced, it felt like breathing again after being underwater for too long. She moved closer, resting her head on his chest. His arm wrapped around her, holding her tight. No more hiding. No more shame. Whatever happens next, she said quietly, I want it to come from this. From honesty. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Then let's take it one day at a time. Outside, the world was beginning to dry. But inside, something new had taken root, something fragile but steady. Love, maybe? Or the start of it. And as they lay together in the fading light, hearts steady and breath synced, it felt like the storm had passed for good.